Recording, everyone. Oh,
Yvonne, I will only be here for the first half of the meeting, but I have Heidi joining me from the team um, for the whole
I'm
session in
here.
case there are questions. So just to let everybody know.
okay, very good. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started this morning. Let's start off with a round of introductions. I'm Yvonne Danone, and I am the Title I and CARES Act manager, but team player, right? Sandy, would you like to go ahead and I'm going to pass the baton to you?
Hi, I'm Sandy Grimes. I'm the coordinator for the financial support team, and we've been involved in help with training and assisting everyone for the CARES Act grant funding. Heidi, do you want to go next? I'll hand it to you.
I'm Heidi Parsons. I'm on the financial support team. So I work with Sandy and we review all of the information for the CARES Act entries and time charged. Thank you.
Maddie, I see you online today.
Yep. Good morning. I'm Maddie Kanar, and I'm a budget analyst, and I help set up the grant in Focus and all that entails.
And Sabrina. Well, she was here. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's everyone on the CARES Act grants team. We're going to start off this morning. I have one key question that has been popular since we returned from break, and that is, can we provide an update on the receipt of the asset tags? So I just want to remind everyone that prior to winter break, that there was the possibility that there were items that were originally charged to CARES, the thermometers and the dispensers were going to be moved to the CRF, right, Maddie? CRF. And so as of over break, you may know that there was another round of stimulus funds released. And with that, the timeline for the CRF grant has been extended. So as a result of the extension on the CRF grant, we are still on hold from sending out the asset tags to the schools. Please continue as you receive items that are considered equipment and items valued over $50. Please continue to add those to your school inventory form. Save those to the CARES Act folder and then send me an email. I am still tracking who has their inventory form into the CARES Act folder. And then what I'm doing is I'm saving those emails in a hold folder so that as soon as I get the green light, know which grant the items are going to be charged to, then I will be able to get you out the appropriate asset tags. Please note the CRF grant is not a CARES Act grant. And so if items are charged to that grant, we will have to have an asset tag that says CFR instead of CARES Act. So that is why the hold is so critical, is because we have to make sure that we have identified the funding source specifically for those items procured with federal dollars. That was the main question, because I had told a lot of schools. I have about 33 schools who have emailed me that they have submitted their inventory forms. So I thank you for your patience as we continue to navigate through the grants and determine where items are actually going to fall. And we do appreciate the extension that the stimulus, the new stimulus package has afforded us. Sandy, how about you? Do you have any specific questions that has come to your team?
I will tell you that the one thing that we're seeing as a team as we're reviewing is we are seeing expenditures that are being charged to hourly technical and hourly teacher for CARES Act. What we're not seeing in the CARES Act folders are all the PARS forms and the HR 11s. We are continuing to follow up with schools, so we ask for your patience as we continue to follow up and as stuff changes, because one of the things, and Yvonne, this was just happened, as you get your PARS forms together, we have to have where we can those original signatures on the PARS forms. But what we have indicated and what you can do is, if you have access in PDF to having the teacher sign the form with the mouse, you can't go in and do the form where you just type in your name. But if you can do the mouse signature, that is an acceptable form of signature for that PARS form. Okay, so hopefully that's going to help you guys. And this is a change. And sorry guys, as stuff comes up, we'll share it with you as soon as we know it. So we need your help in making sure we get the signatures and the forms in the folders. Okay, so that's what we're seeing, is a lot of the forms, schools are still trying to get everything together and put it out in the folders, because we have been doing a review from the Office of the Comptroller, because we're trying to get a feel for what we have. And I will tell you, of all the expenditures that are out there, I would say we only have 10% of the correct forms and stuff out in the folders, in the CARES Act folders, if I had to say a percentage. So we have to work hard, and I know it's a lot of work for you guys, but if you want to use that funding and use it, we have to have the correct backup documentation to go with it.
Yeah, and Sandy, I'm just going to interject on here that I think it's critical that we repeat over and over and over that our review of the documentation is to ensure federal compliance. Yep. There were, the CARES Act grants team was in a meeting with a group of attorneys, and the three things that we kept hearing were compliance, documentation, and the third one slipped me, but that compliance and that documentation. And we were told by the attorneys, it's not if the auditors, it's when, right? So please know that you want to hear from Sandy's team or from me or from the budget office now, rather than hearing from Cherry Hill Beckert when they come in to audit that they need documentation. So please, we're all in this together. This isn't a gotcha. This is part of the technical assistance that Fairfax is providing to ensure auditing success, because we know the auditors are coming, and we know that they're specifically going to go after the CARES Act, given all the nuances and the lawsuit with Betsy DeVos. Private school, that was the third piece. And so because of the private school involvement in the CARES Act and that lawsuit that resulted with the allocations, we know that the auditors are coming and they're going to look at those items specifically. Anytime people are getting paid with CARES Act funds, that just creates, that is one of the key things that auditors look at is, was the salary out of contract? So we've had to put some things in place. So again, please know that we are learning, we continue to learn more as we go on, and that are contacting you and telling you we need this. We are just trying to make sure that FCPS has an excellent audit, an audit experience without findings. Sandy, the other question that I have actually gotten from your team that I want to emphasize here as well is we provided a lot of flexibility on submissions that occurred back in 2020, right? So
Right.
if you know, they on line 1 of that FS 174, we need the contractual hours. And on line 2, we need the CARES Act time clearly documented. And we provided some flexibility for time that was submitted from January to from July until November. But now that we know what the requirements are, we have got to make sure that we have it the way we're asking it to come into us. And so Heidi and the other financial analysts, if they're reaching out to you and saying, hey, we've got to have the contractual hours documented, so please have your teachers put in that 8 hours contractual. If it isn't there, unfortunately, we're going to have to send it back to you and have the teacher refill out the form and re-sign the form. We've got to clearly have contractual hours documented along with the CARES Act hours. Unfortunately, that is a non-negotiable.
And Yvonne, what happens?
7.5.
And I want to, oh, sorry, I just want to chime in because I have had a few schools who are going back and doing journal entries to move charges for hours worked while the teachers were off contract. So they didn't actually work contracted hours, but they need to make note of that on the form, right? So somewhere on that form, they need to say, did not work, teacher off contract, only worked for CARES, or something to that effect, so that we know and we're aware that, hey, there's a reason we don't have the contracted hours. That's for a journal entry, though.
Right.
So,
And they have to put a 0 on that first line. They can't leave it blank, right? I had one of those yesterday. And unfortunately, I had to tell a member of your team that they had to go back to the school. The teacher signed the form on Monday, January the 4th for time in December. And unfortunately, given the constraints that we're under, the school is not going to be happy because they're going to have to go back, have the teacher add in the zeros and re-sign the form. And I know getting those signatures are tough, but again, better they hear from us than it be an audit finding.
no, we're good. I just want to, and I know we're spending a lot of time on this, but that's where we're spending the bulk of our time. So I think we've got to, I'm going to send out in my weekly email a sample, another sample and directions to make sure we're getting them. But that's where we're spending a ton of our time, is trying to make sure we have proper backup documentation.
So Ellen asked, as long as the signatures are there and not typed names, that is acceptable. And yes, Ellen, as long as it is an authentic signature, right? Either the teacher signed it and it's a photocopy, or the teacher on their personal computer has the ability to use the mouse or a keypad to do an authentic signature, we can accept that, right? But what we cannot accept is a typed in signature that has been changed to script font. That is not acceptable. Should we file, Betty asks, should we file documents by staff member or by form? I'm going to ask that you file the documents by month, by event, right? So if you have 5 teachers that are being charged for intervention, you can lump all of those FS 174s together with the HR 11 and have your documentation, and you save it by month all together. How you do it, you've got some flexibility there. Some schools are saving each of the FS 174s by teacher, by event. You can do it that way, but to me,
Yvonne, I will say that it's easier when we're reviewing and we're comparing expenditures to have the teacher's name. Heidi, what do you think? I think it's easier for you guys to see the teacher's name.
Well, to me, that's a lot of work for the FT or AA. So I'm okay if you scan them all by month, but if you do it in alphabetical order, that would be like most helpful. And have like maybe one file for December hourly and then another file for December hourly technical, and then they can scan all the documents together. But if it's in some kind of order, alphabetical order, that would be great as one document.
Yeah.
And then it's easier to just scroll through and read it as you go on. Is that okay, Yvonne?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Yvonne's saying we have a little leeway. So what we're trying to do is we have to make sure we have a PARS form for each person. We have to do it by month because we're reviewing expenditures on a monthly basis. So when we look at it, just so that those of you guys are putting it out there, that's what we're doing, is we're having to look at those expenditures by month. So I'm okay with doing it by month, by the event, by the month that they're doing it, like Heidi says, since they're the one out there reviewing. So either way is fine. Whichever way works for you guys. But it's got to be clear and it's got to be done by month.
Hey, Yvonne, I have a question. So a lot of the schools, you know, since the teachers are working remotely, some of them take pictures of the PARS form. So I've been telling everybody to, as long as it's readable, to save it as a PDF, like don't upload the picture.
That is correct.
Is that the correct thing to say?
That is correct. We need to have it as a PDF, not as a JPEG.
Gotcha.
And, you know, once they take a picture of it, you know, they can, email it to themselves and then open it back up and then just do a save as a PDF. We know that it's an extra step. What I will say, in talking with some of the AAs have actually been doing that on behalf of some of the teachers who may or may not have a PDF reader on their laptops. And you know, when we talk about equity and we talk about gaps that we've identified as a result of COVID, ensuring that all of our staff has PDF is definitely one of those items that we recognize that is a need within the division. Other questions for us?
Yvonne, I don't know, this, I can bring up a couple of the questions that I've kind of been getting, and I have actually had a question from a principal yesterday, not yesterday, but the day before yesterday. And the question is regarding, there's some confusion as to where they can take money and what they can do and use for, because they got funding for classroom monitors in their operating funds for ADA compliance. So one of the questions that the principals had, and you guys can kind of help me with this, and I'm glad Maddie's here to hear this too, is that money is for the monitors in the classroom. So one of the questions for that, Maddie, was if they have one teacher who's ADA compliant, but they have to split up the classroom into 2 classrooms, they can absolutely use that money, the monitor money, to fund 2 monitors for one teacher that's ADA. Correct?
Yes, they can. However, I want to emphasize, right, that the guidance that HR sent out about the IA monitors is very specific, right? And the directions that we have given with CARES is very specific. So it would have to be for intervention. Okay?
Right. So, well, the other question to go hand in hand with this question on the monitor money. So that's so once they use that money, can they use CARES Act funding for monitors? They really can't if it's just part of regular classroom instruction, correct?
That is correct.
For ADA, they can't use CARES Act grant.
No. And that is why we have to be, so for the hourly, right, for that situation, line 1 for that hourly teacher would need to be ADA monitor. That's operating fund. So those hours would have to be clearly documented. Line 2 would be the CARES Act hours. And keep in mind that the coding for the IA monitors was provided to every principal. There's a, they created an internal order, and I realize that has been moved to school account, but that is hitting a specific order number because operating funds are being utilized for that. So to tell schools that they can use CARES Act for the IA monitors is not exact. They can use the same people that are filling the roles of the IA monitors to do intervention outside of the IA monitor work. That is what
Right.
they can do.
That's where it gets gray, and that's where we're getting questions and confusion. So
That is correct.
I will tell you, because what they're trying to do is be prudent and use all the available monies that they have. So, and that's what we want to give them guidance on and make it clear. So the CARES Act grant funding is to be used for all those activities that we've specifically put in the CARES Act grant funding manual for the intervention and support and all that stuff. It's not for the monitors, but if you're doing monitors, you've got funding for that. They can do that, but they've got to make sure that if they're doing that as part of their hours, it goes on the PARS form. That's where it gets a little ABC.
Correct. You know, and that is why that FS 174 is critical, to be able to document that and to have a teacher signature and a principal signature, and even a statement from the principal saying that this is approved and this is why, right? So that we can make sure for all of those different nuances that we're capturing those. I want to answer Teresa's question. So Teresa said on the PARS form, if a teacher took a sick day in December, but did not enter any CARES Act hours for that day, do I still have to enter a 0 for the contracted hours? On that particular day, you would enter an SL for sick leave. Does that make sense, Teresa?
You guys, I'm going to have to check out. I've got another meeting to go to. Thanks.
Thanks, Sandy. Heidi, you're going to be able to stay on the call, correct? Okay, excellent. Deepak, while using the same person's teacher, IA monitor rate doesn't exceed $15.42. Correct. IA monitors are paid at pay band 4. Sandy, monitors working Tuesday through Friday, so we could use them for Monday intervention work from CARES money. Absolutely, Sandy. That is an excellent use of CARES Act funds for that. Tasha, I thought that we don't report any sick leave. Because we need the contractual time reflected, Tasha, we're just asking, rather than leaving it blank or putting a 0, just go ahead and put the SL on the form moving forward.
Okay, that's good to know. What if, however, they take only a portion of the day as leave?
Okay, so we have to have the contractual time documented. So what I'm going to say is, in that box, you're going to have to put 4 like, let's say they take 4 hours of sick leave. Then you would put 3.5/SL, so that we know that the remainder of the time they were on sick leave.
Okie dokie. That'll be tight to fit in that little box.
I know. Tracy, can you please clarify that the monitors we currently have for teachers out of ADA are paid through our operating funds and not CARES funding? Yes, Tracy, the IA monitors for ADA compliance are paid out of operational. those funds were actually already transferred to your school account, and HR provided every principal an email with the specifics of the charges. So I do verify that the ADA IA monitors are paid operationally. And you cannot use CARES funds to pay for additional IA monitors. You can use an IA monitor to do intervention outside of their ADA compliance work and charge them to CARES. But that is outside of the ADA requirements for the IA monitors. Great questions. Any other questions that you may have? Feel free to raise your hand or to type the question in the box. Our team does plan to be on the call until 11 o'clock. And we are capturing the questions in the Q&A office hours link. I want to make sure that I put that in the chat box to make sure that everyone has access to that. That has really become a valuable resource for a lot of our school staffs, and I've heard from a number of principals that they too are actually checking the Q&A and then going back and listening to the recordings. We are having the questions answered and the recording links uploaded. We've actually been really good. We've had them done by close of business on the same day, and we will continue to do that. I've also added the link to the Q&A document to my signature, so it can also be accessed that way as well. I'm going to see if we have, I don't see any hand. Oh, Michelle, I see you have your hand up.
I do, thanks. I have a quick question. Our principal is considering hiring a hourly teacher to help with interventions, and also should we have somebody, a teacher, go out with COVID or something to have a dual role. With the PARS report, since they're ironing out now whether or not they want them to work full time, would I just note on there, like obviously I put, like you said, if they're doing intervention, I'll put that under CARES Act money, how much time it was, and then if they were in an actual teacher role where it's coming out of our operational budget, I would put that in a separate line.
That is correct.
Should I note if they're not, if they alternate between like a full-time day and a part-time week, I'm sorry, back and forth, should I note on the report or in the principal's statement, like that their hours may vary week by week? How should I kind of account for that?
As I'm thinking through your question, so if you're putting hourly teacher / substitute, right? Then, so let's say it was today. So under the 8, no, today's the 7th. Under the 7 for the substitute hours, let's say they did 5 hours, right? So you would put a 5 on line 1, and then let's say they did 2 hours of intervention. Then you would list CARES Act intervention on line 2, and under today's date for that time, you would put 2. And then your HR 11 that you're providing to them, you want to make sure in the top right-hand corner that you are just on that HR 11 documenting that it's CARES Act -intervention. So you want that language to be consistent across all the forms, your HR 11 and your FS 174.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
My pleasure. I also see, oops.
You have a question with from Tasha King.
Tasha, one note about classroom monitors. Although their pay rate is the same as hourly band 4, we should select the new classroom monitor position on the HR 11. Tasha, can you enter in? I want to make sure I understand your question.
Hey there, it's not so much a question, just a comment, because we were talking about the classroom monitors being paid at hourly band 4. And the original email we had received with our allocation for the classroom monitors mentioned hourly band 4, but later there was an instruction that instead of listing it as hourly band, the position as hourly band 4 on the HR 11, we were instructed to select a classroom monitor position. So if there's anyone else who sort of missed that in their reading, just to catch that it should say classroom monitor position.
Tasha, thank you so much for providing that clarification. Our team is not on those emails that go out. So for our records, we will make sure that we capture in the notes that on the FS 174, rather than IA monitor, we put classroom monitor, and that would be line 1 for those hourly employees. So thank you for providing that clarification.
No problem.
And Heidi, will you make sure that your team is aware that moving forward, they can have either IA monitor, but they really should have classroom monitor? I think we have to allow some flexibility because that's new information, right? So
I agree.
thank you, Tasha. Tasha, that's one of the things I always love about you is you are always like on point. So thank you.
Thank you, Tasha.
Well, I just took some rereading yesterday because I had messed up and put hourly band 4 on a HR 11 earlier, so I got it. Needs to be classroom monitor, so
Okay.
sharing my catching of that.
All right, thank you. Well, if the HR 11 needs to say classroom monitor, then Heidi, would you agree we have to be consistent with the language for auditing purposes? So it
Yes,
really
I
should
agree.
say classroom monitor on the FS 184 or 174.
Right. I mean, I guess if you want to cover all bases, you could do hourly pay band 4 / classroom monitor and have both of the information on there. But that is good to know, and I'll let Sandy know that she can put that in her email.
Yeah. Tasha, can I ask a favor? If you get any further updates, because we're not being copied on those emails, might you, if there's something that you think that we need to know, might you forward that to me and I'll make sure that the rest of our team gets that information.
Sure thing.
Thank you, Tasha. Greatly appreciate that. Deepak, for IA monitors, is there a situation / hours when they become eligible for benefit if using teachers? No. IA monitors are hourly employees only. The only way they could be benefited, Deepak, is that if they became licensed classroom teachers and were hired under a different format. But at this time, all IA monitors are on an hourly basis. Kathy, do all classroom monitors hired by schools through HR have to have an HR 11 on file? Great question. What we are told that HR is not requiring for the ADA operating funded monitors, they're not requiring the HR 11. However, if the monitor is at any point is doing intervention work and being charged to CARES, then they have to have the HR 11. The other thing I'll say, Kathy, is that Title I supplemented the IA monitors, and we provided each of the Title I schools 3. So in addition to the monitors being charged to CARES for intervention, your 3 that would be Title I funded, the Title I schools are required to have an HR 11 for those monitors. And the FS 174 is also required for the Title I funded monitors / IAs. And those FS 174s have to go to Tanya Charles in the Title I office. So we've got IA monitors or classroom monitors funded with operating. They do not need the HR 11. They do not need the FS 174 because they are funded operational and not with federal funds. The Title I funded monitors / IAs need to have the HR 11. They need to, more so, they need to have the FS 174. And rather than those FS 174s going in the CARES folder, they need to go to Tanya Charles in the Title I office. Teresa, should we be submitting a PAR and HR 11 for classroom monitors? Again, the only time you would need the HR 11 and FS 174 for classroom monitors is if they're being utilized to provide intervention against CARES Act.
I'm sorry, Yvonne, this is Tasha. Can I jump in?
Yes, please.
In the same email that I had that said that classroom monitors on their HR 11 should be monitors, not hourly band 4. It also did remind us that for our time and attendance processing records, we do need to have HR 11s on file for all temporary hourly employees. So that HR 11 is needed for all temporary hourly employees. It does need to, copy of that does need to stay with the time and attendance processor for the current year plus 5 years.
Thank you, Tasha. And again, would you please forward me that email?
Will do.
And can you tell me who in HR that email is coming from?
I need to look and see. The one that I have, I think, was forwarded to me by someone else. No, I think it was Cynthia Lowry. So I will forward that to you. And she's in time and attendance.
Okay, I see. That's good. That's good information to have. At first, they were saying that it wasn't needed, but I can see why it's needed because it has the coding that the monitor should be charged to.
Right, exactly.
Okay, thank you, Tasha. I see that Sandy, you have your hand up.
Yes, hi. I think you skipped my question. I kind of missed out on some of this guidance on the classroom monitors. One, I'd like to know if we could, and I should say I have an interim principal as of this week, so we might have missed a memo somewhere along the way. Can we pay them from operational funds to come in and do training? I know HR is giving them some, but we want to give them some additional hands-on with the computer.
So you can definitely utilize your school funds for that, Sandy. Oh, thank you so much. However, that time could not be charged against CARES Act.
Right. I mean, and when I'm saying operational, the money that we were giving, maybe I'm wrong, but when you're saying operational, I thought that was the money that's been put in that hourly IA account for us to use for monitors, correct?
That is correct. It's my understanding, though, that the money that you've been provided, Maddie, you may know more about this than I do. No? Sandy, I would check with your HR specialist, but it was my understanding that the hourly that was provided was to be utilized for the classroom monitor. I am not aware of anything around the training aspect of that. And so that is definitely something, once I find out who that point of contact is in HR, I can ask that question and provide a response to that in the Q&A for this. But I would encourage you, you're going to need an immediate response. I would encourage you to reach out to your specialist and ask that question. And if you happen to get an answer before I do, would you please share?
Okay, and I'm having a little problem with our specialists. I know they're swamped over there. I know there's not enough monitors to go around. We hire some and then they decide they don't want to do it because of the training and the hoops they have to go through. But right. I can't get in. I'm trying to, I even went through the ADA department to have a specific question. So if you find out anybody who can guide us on some of this stuff, that would be great.
Okay.
My concern was, again, with my principal retiring and getting an interim, and monitors we've been trying to hire since December, late November, I guess. I don't know how many were allowed. I know we get the extra 3 from Title I. When we request them, I wasn't sure how to say this will be one of our Title I people. Nobody can give me guidance on that. They just ask if they want, if it's school funded, and I forget the other term they use.
Okay.
And nobody can even give you a definition of what school funded means. Does that mean coming from our operational?
Yeah.
I had an email go through 3 people and they referred me back to our HR specialist who still hasn't given me an answer.
Okay, so Sandy, I'll tell you what, I'll ask you to hold, and I'm going to go directly, Maddie and Heidi, I'm going to go directly to Andrea Garris because she's my point of contact for instructional assistance for Title I purposes. So I'll just say that given that Title I is funding, there's questions, and this came up in CARES Act office hours, and I need to have the answer. So Sandy, I'm going to ask for you to stand down. Sorry, I'm using a military term. I came from a military family. So I'll ask you to stand down until I get an answer from Andrea Garris. How's that?
Okay, I'd appreciate that. I just feel everything's been going pretty smoothly until we get to this point. I'm not even sure when the monitor should start. I mean, now that, you know, the instruction has been pulled back in-house instruction again, can we start using them now for other reasons? You know, there's just a lot of questions.
Of course. And you're right. The hold is going to, there are going to be some additional questions. So I think additional guidance is going to need to go out. Sandy, I do know that because of the flexibility that you have with your Title I funded, I want to emphasize that those were funded as instructional assistants rather than classroom monitors, and therefore you have a little, you have flexibility in how you use your Title I funded IAs, okay? So if technically, like I had a school last week say to me, look, I can't really use, according to ADA compliance, I can't use the person that I currently have because, you know, I won't divulge why. She's like, can I move them and fund them through Title I? And my response to that was, yes, you can. So just know that if, as the ADA compliance for the IA monitor is given, you have greater flexibility in funding those with Title I. That would not be considered a supplant issue because the operational funds was already put in your school account. So just be aware that you do have that flexibility.
Okay,
Great
perfect.
question.
Thank you.
And I will get back with you, Sandy, as soon as I hear back from Andrea Garris. And there's a lot of movement going on in HR right now. I got an email from Andrea on Monday. So as soon as I hear, I'll get back with you.
Okay, I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
My pleasure. Deepak, I see that you asked for me to address the details about the reimbursement process, JE, after the schools funding the IA monitors first or Title I. There isn't a first or a second. The classroom monitors / IAs can utilize those funds and the Title I funds concurrently. So if a school was received 2 ADA monitors, classroom monitors, all the Title I schools got 3, they could run those 5 all at the same time. All right. The JE process for the Title I funded IAs is that the schools should be charging the IAs to their operating funds, and then on a monthly basis submit a JE to Title I along with the FS 174s to be reimbursed. So the Title I funded IAs are on a reimbursement through the Title I office. Betty, from an earlier email today, AAs, are we allowed to use classroom monitors and CARES funding to assist with WIDA testing? For CARES, I'm going to say no. You cannot charge the classroom monitors to do WIDA testing against CARES because our application was approved by VDOE for intervention and not assessment. As far as the classroom monitors, again, Betty, I would need to ask if the classroom monitors could be used for WIDA testing, but I'm going to say that the answer to that is most likely going to be no, because that was not the intent of their use. But if HR provides flexibility, that would have to come out from them. So Betty, I will ask that question to Andrea about the classroom monitors and WIDA testing. I'll ask that question as well. Kathy, Title I funding related to monitors is only for Title I schools, correct? Yes, that is correct, Kathy. The 41 Title I schools received Title I funds for those additional IAs. So you are correct there. Sandy, I still see your hand up. Did you have another question?
No, sorry, I didn't put it down.
That's okay. Thank you, Tasha, and I'll look forward to getting that email. I'm sure it's already in my inbox. Any other questions for Heidi or Maddie? Maddie, you're our budget expert, so we've had a few questions around that. Again, I want to emphasize, I know a number of you jumped on the call a little late. Again, I want to emphasize that a group of us participated in a call with the Brunstein and Manasavit attorneys, and we know that Sandy Grimes' team is contacting you when additional information is needed in your folders. And I just again want to take a minute to explain that this please should not be considered as a gotcha, but rather it's our technical assistance that we are providing in advance of the auditor, in advance of auditing. We heard 2 weeks before Christmas that the attorneys indicated that divisions would be monitored for CARES. So it's when, not if. And the 3 areas that we were told that the auditors will specifically look at is compliance, documentation, and then private schools. So I am handling the private school piece of CARES. And so believe me, all of the work that we're asking you to do with your HR 11s and your FS 174s and your procurement, our private schools are having to do the same, and plus complete their inventory forms. So I am working not only with the FCPS schools, but I'm also working with the 46 private schools who are also participating in CARES. So please know that when we're reaching out to you and saying we need more information, it's not because please don't consider this a gotcha. Be glad it's us and not an auditor from Beckert and Cherry Hill or Cherry Hill and Beckert that is calling you. So it's part of the technical assistance that the comptroller's office is providing schools in advance, knowing that we will be audited with the funds. And we're hearing that those audits could potentially start as early as the fall. So it's important that we get everything documented clearly and well, and especially because given the various pots of funding that have come into the division, and now the new stimulus that will be coming into the division once that guidance is released, that as a division, we can remain in good standing, not only with the federal government, but with the auditors as well. We certainly don't want to have to give money back. And so we just proactively are reviewing the documentation to make sure that we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's. Christine, she said she would love to have guidance in writing regarding use of monitors and the forms needed for operating as well as Title I. She needs something to clarify, something to refer to when she gets questions from her TAP. So Heidi, there are sample documents that are coming in Sandy's email, correct?
The sample documents are they were mostly related to the CARES Act.
Okay.
Not the classroom monitors. But based on, I think you were going to get more information about the HR 11, correct? As to whether or not it's needed for, hold on, let me look at my notes. Oh no, because then Tasha came in and said the HR 11 is needed for all temporary employees.
That's correct. So I'll make sure that I capture in the Q&A that the HR 11s are required not only for CARES Act, but for the ADA monitors. And then I'll make sure that I identify the Title I process as part of the Q&A today. Christine, will that help?
And then I think you were going to verify whether or not the classroom monitor funds could be used for training the IA to do the
Right.
classroom monitor.
That's
So, because
correct.
that, I thought, yeah, we've had that question.
And beta testing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's in my notes, my actions that I'll make sure that I capture in the notes.
I'll talk to Sandy and see if we can maybe have some kind of blurb about the use of classroom monitors in an email.
Yes. Christine, I know that Title I has also been providing some guidance through the Title I monthly newsletter. Can you tell me, has that been sent to the AAs? No, your mic isn't working. All right, well, Christine, what I'll do is I'll make sure that Tanya Charles forwards the Title I newsletter to all of the IAs so that we can make sure that the IAs are also getting those monthly newsletters and updates. Christine, I'll also put a note to email you the last. Yes, the AAs. I'm sorry, Lisa. I'll make sure that the AAs get sent the Title I newsletter so that they are also getting those updates as well. There's definitely pertinent information that our AAs need. All right, well, I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. It's 11:01. Our team will remain online for if you want to stay behind and ask specific questions. Otherwise, we say thank you, Happy New Year, and we appreciate everything that you're doing. We know that this is a lot of work. In our Friday meetings, the grants team, we are constantly talking and updating each other about the changes. And we know it's a lot. And again, we thank you for all you're doing, your extra efforts, and all the additional paperwork that has resulted with the CARES Act coming into the school division. So thank you so much. And a member of our team, we're here. Don't hesitate to reach out to myself or a member of Sandy Grimes' team. So thank you so much. And we will have the office hours questions and the recording uploaded by close of business today. So Heidi, my next actions will be to reach out to Andrea Garris. I think we need to have a point of contact in HR regarding the IA monitors. I know that Sandy has been reaching out to Jennifer. So I'm wondering, is Jennifer also our point of contact for the IA monitors? Do you want to ask her that before I reach out to Andrea?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I think Jennifer she's a coordinator, right? So Sandy always gets them confused, so I'm going to look up in my email. So Jennifer Atkins is the coordinator of salary services.
Okay,
Uh,
so she wouldn't necessarily be the point of contact for the IA monitors. And I think we
Right.
need, for CARES Act purposes, to have a point of contact.
I agree.
Okay. Our schools are asking great questions, and I just think we need greater collaboration with HR on this one.
Yep, they're the experts, right, with the time.
Absolutely. Especially given that they're asking about WIDA testing and then training for them, right? And as I'm understanding it, because the IA monitors, there's such turnover, there's going to be constant training needed. So my wondering is it an IA monitor who's doing the training, or is there someone in FCPS who at each of the schools that's doing it? So that's the question I have is, who's doing
From what
the
I've heard, it's each school is training their IA to be a classroom monitor. So they're asking while they're training that IA, can they charge them to the classroom monitor funds?
Oh, right. Okay.
So, I mean, originally I thought Sandy had said yes. But I don't know where, she got that guidance. I can't answer that, but I think it would be a great idea to have it approved.
Okay. So if you can,
Definitely.
yeah, so if you can touch basis with Sandy and then update me, and then as soon as I hear from you, I'll go across to Andrea Garris to see
Okay.
who is the point of contact for this. And then my wondering is, Sandy has been facilitating those conversations with HR. She's been the primary point of contact. Does Sandy want to continue being the point of contact with HR? Or does she want me to provide assistance there? Whatever she needs from me, I'm happy to do.
Okay. I will definitely ask her that when she's out of her meeting.
Okay.
And inform her of all the fun she missed. So.
Okay. All right, I do still see a few people on. Does anyone have any school-specific questions that they would like to ask?
Maybe they forgot they were on the meeting.
That could be. All right, well then I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and go ahead and close out the meeting today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate your time.
All right.
You
Happy
too.
New
Have a
Year.
great day.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All righty, bye-bye.
Bye.